Hi, and welcome to day 13 of the 21 days of prayer and fasting. I hope things are going well for you. I hope you found this process and the days you spent so far to be an important part of your spiritual journey, to really be a time to get intimate with God, to really think about God, and to feel closer to God during this process. Today we're going to talk about God's character, and the verses we're talking about are in Genesis 25. And it's at the very end, and it's a story about Esau and Jacob. And so the challenge with these verses is it requires a little bit of context. So Jacob and Esau were born, they were twins. Esau actually was the first one out of the womb, and so therefore the birthright or the inheritance of the family went to him, and Jacob was born second. And it says, the Bible says that as they were growing up, that Esau would go out into the fields and he would go out hunting, and Jacob would basically stay back and take care of things around the house. And it was basically more of a homebody. And then one day Esau came back as he was making some stew, and as he was making the stew, he said, "I'm famished. Please give me some of that stew." And Jacob says, "Well, I'll give you some stew, but you have to promise your birthright to me. You have to switch it over and you have to give it to me." And Esau sort of hem and haws a little bit, but says, "Okay, I will give it to you." And he eats, and then he gets up and he walks away. And it basically says that he despised his birthright. And so you might think, well, why was Jacob, holding this price over him in order to get the food? But the way that the Bible looks at the story, the main character in this story is actually Esau. And what the challenge for Esau was is Esau was willing to give up a birthright, his inheritance, which would last for generations, in order to get a simple meal. In order to satisfy his short-term desires. And so the real moral of the story, the thing the story is really trying to point to, is this notion that we have choices between what is temporal and what is now versus what is going to be forever. We have God's promises and the things that are going to come in the future versus what our flesh might desire right now. And so as we think about these verses and as you read these verses, the thing that I'm challenged about is, in my life, what is it that I'm holding on to that is temporal, that is short-term, and that is not of God? What am I doing to satiate my own earthly desires? And when I'm doing that, what am I giving up in terms of God's promise or in terms of my ability to serve God? And so I encourage you, as you pray, as you meditate, as you fast, to really think about, what are you doing in your life in order to inherit God's promise versus what are you doing in your life in order to satisfy your short-term desires? And I know for me it's a powerful set of thoughts, and it really challenged me to think through how I'm spending my time, my energy, and my effort.